Hello, folks. Welcome back to the LCS Challengers League. I'm joined once again by Rafa and Joshi as we're going to get into our second best of 3 of the day. No surprise for us that 100 Thieves Challengers is here, but on the other side of the rift, I think the biggest surprise of the first round was TSM Challengers taking down CLG, and they earned the right to fight for a top 5-6 spot moving up here.
Yeah, it was a crazy and surprising turn of events. TSM Challengers, I mean, surging at the right time. I think the swap has strangely benefited both teams for TSM LCS and TSM Challengers, where Neo has been a monster in a lot of these late game fights, and Wild Turtle over on the LCS side has been a massive boon to their laning, and you know, they found wins where a lot of people were not suspecting them to.
Yeah, I mean, TSM Challengers has been looking so much better, right? Before it really was kind of like Hanser and friends for the most part, but now having a point of power in the bottom side of the map has really given them some tools to fight back. But just as we were looking yesterday with the improved performance from Arrow and Kim down going up against Lost and Zazel, it is once again a very tough test here for the bot lane of Neo coming through. Will they actually be able to take down Unforgiven and Destiny?
Yeah, I think that Deserux called Unforgiven in his 1v3 the Boogeyman, as this guy kind of seems like the John Wick of the league. So good, it feels disingenuous to call him a prospect.
With that pencil.
Yeah, he is freaking unbelievable at League of Legends in this league. He has been smurfing, and we'll see if he can bring it today, as 100 Thieves Challengers also went through some changes for playoffs with Darshan being reincorporated into the league. Good to see him back. I know Hanser was looking forward to that matchup going up against Darshan at the top lane, as those old bros going to be going up against each other. But let's try and get it into the TSM roster, as we actually, or I should say 100 Thieves roster first.
Close enough.
Alphabetical. Yeah, close enough. We got 2 teams, you know, it was a coin flip. But Darshan hopping on in. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Honestly, looking at this bottom lane, right, Unforgiven is so good. It's not fair. We disqualified him from most valuable prospect conversation because he's just that good. He comes through.
He's an all-pro.
He's an all-pro player. We know that this guy is absolutely insane, but he's also joined by a bunch of, a mix of newer and more veteran players, right? Destiny, another player who has been playing in OS for a long time before they came over to the LCS. And Yukino, I think, has been one of the players that everybody looks at as one of the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed players who have been looking absolutely phenomenal and one of the best mindsets for the game.
Wow.
This Unforgiven, this is why Unforgiven is just so good. I mean, like, if we had a most valuable player award, I mean, Unforgiven, we get it 100%. Easy. Like, he already should. He should have been on an LCS roster instead of a Challengers roster. So
yeah. And it's also worth noting, like, he went to Worlds. Even though Mad Lions didn't do super hot at Worlds 2022, it was definitely, I feel like Unforgiven was not exposed at all. He was very clearly showcasing that he was a world-class AD carry at the time.
Yeah, and it's pretty wild to think that now, you know, TSM Challengers is filled with players who, you know, were competing at that level. Also, Draku being at Worlds as well this past year. But of course, Hanser, Svenskeren, you guys are familiar, rounded out with Neo and Doxa, who I think Doxa was a part of the reason that TSM is here. You know, we've been asking for him as a broadcast to kind of step up for TSM. Had a nice series against CLG, got TSM the upset.
Yeah, and Doxa has been a player that, as a relatively young rookie who has mostly played in the collegiate amateur space before, this is realistically their first time that they have been playing at this level. And earlier on in the season, we were not super excited about the way that they were actually playing it through, just because Doxa, you know, it didn't really feel like they were in a spot where they knew what was going on a lot of the time. They didn't have a coach to really help them, guide them through, and it was really focused on some of the more veteran members like Hanser and Svenskeren to really help Doxa elevate his game over the past couple of months.
Yeah, but I mean, Neo has been kind of the big boon. Doxa, as we called out, had a great game against CLG, respectively, which is where this series is from, but I think Doxa, at least from the collegiate perspective and where we've seen, technically Doxa has been under the TSM org branch during the TSM amateur days. And, you know, it was also really nice to see, like, oh, hey, you know, finally TSM remembered, yeah, we had this guy. He was pretty good. And he's kind of now surging into the last back end, not even the regular split, but just playoffs in general. I mean, now's the best time to do it, too.
Yeah.
I think the crazy thing about Neo specifically, I know that, like, he was a big focus for us. This is the second split in a row where Neo has been dropped down into the Academy Challengers level. and has just smurfed in the league. I mean, he was huge in that series against CLG. He was a big part of the reason that Dignitas last year did make finals of Proving Grounds. And it's really good to see Neo, that's a tough thing to be dropped down. Really good to see Neo really take that in stride and still play at his best. I think it's a big part of the reason that TSM did pull off that first round upset.
Yeah.
Continuing with the SpongeBob. How many times we got to teach you this lesson?
Well, I think the thing for... there's two different cases. With the Dignitas one, it was because Dignitas had already ended the season where there's no realistic way of them getting playoffs back. So they're like, okay, you know what? Hey, from the Challengers roster, if anyone wants to step up and play in LCS, this is now your moment. And so that's why Spawn took that chance and Neo went back to Challengers. Where this one, Charlie actively said, okay, let's run some 1v1s. We're going up against some opponents who are going to be stronger in lane. We want to take our best laner forward, and Wild Turtle passed the benchmark for that. So, but it doesn't take away anything from Neo, because Neo has always been shining in these team fights, whether it's here in Challengers or even in the first few weeks of the LCS.
Yeah. It's been interesting, right? Because Neo doesn't have that same kind of X factor Wild Turtle does, even though Neo tends to play most situations a little bit better. It is one of those spots where if you need that X factor, it can help out the LCS squad a lot. But now, TSM Challengers just having a much more solid bottom side of the map that hasn't been falling apart is going to be helping them out quite a bit. Because, as you kind of touched on earlier this weekend, Cubby, we know that Darshan is a player who has been coming back, and he's been trying to play Fortnite. Not Fortnite, Valorant.
Not quite
different game.
Yeah, different shooting game.
Yeah, close. Game. A little bit, less zoomer. But guys, I got to say, I do want to keep things moving. I'm going to stick around as a third wheel, but we do have draft underway. So going to join you guys for the first round of draft. As
He's
we do have
into the bit. This is awesome character development.
Is he the fifth wheel? What about the two bears?
We're going to move into the draft as 100 Thieves with side selection have taken blue for game one. TSM, of course, all eyes for us on that bot lane, as Unforgiven has been the most valuable player that we have had in Challengers. And Neo, he has been on a hot streak. If TSM wants to contest in this series as well, going to need to continue to step up. Definitely something we're going to look out for. Is that a pretty good bot lane matchup that we have in between Unforgiven and Neo in this match.
True. We also know that having talked with Svenskeren previously, well, he didn't say it during the interview, during the pre-interview interview that we always do to say, like, hey, what do you want to talk about? He was saying that he was actually thinking that CLG, well, might have been a stronger opponent than 100 Thieves Challengers. And so that is going to be an opportunity here for TSM to get 2 upsets in a row. People continuously look at CLG as one of the best teams in scrims. They've just been having some trouble actually translating it to the stage. I
mean, it would lean into what a lot of the other teams have told us with how good CLG is behind the scenes. They have a chance to prove that with twice the amount of games now in the lower bracket, get to the picks and bans. I think the Vi and the Talia being taken away, that is the most played champions for Yukino, and then Pretty's Talia, always so good. I like that from TSM. But it does lead to that first pick Annie coming out of 100 Thieves.
Yeah. I don't know. Last series did not give us a whole lot of confidence in this pick. There are ways to play it, but it's a little bit outside of Pretty's comfort zone. And of course, the Gragas has been this massive flex pick going into the top lane, the mid lane, and even the jungle as well. And Svenskeren's Gragas might be the best jungle Gragas we have in the league.
And there's even some matchups where if you pick Xayah Rakan, which we're not going to see since Rakan is already banned, Gragas is a decent answer in the support role. Like, you can still play... Like, Gragas is such a powerful champion right now in the state of the game, and I hope to see more teams expand on the versatility as it just adds to the overall power value.
We do have half of it. It's still the Xayah.
I mean, Neo, all of his highlights feels like have been on that Xayah. Also, just want to highlight that Gragas was taken away all 3 games of the last series on red side. So both those teams put a very high priority on how powerful that pick is. TSM going to take that for themselves. They can hold that flex for the rest of draft. As 100 Thieves likely to pair their folios with the Thresh here. Pretty stock standard response we've seen.
Yeah, very standard stuff. I'm curious what it is that TSM Challengers want to pair the Xayah with, considering the Rakan is already gone. There's nothing that has the same kind of just raw laning power as the Xayah and the Rakan, but the Blitzcrank has been something that Dragu has been piloting a little bit more recently. It's another good counter to the Thresh. They're really looking around all these different hook champions to see what they can do to actually punish Destiny. It is one of those spots where Dragu took also some time to come into their own, right? They didn't start off... what was the way that Diamond described it? It's like not playing against a real person. Or like playing against a bot, I think it was. It really took Dragu a long time to adjust.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't necessarily here for the first couple weeks, and then...
True.
And then jet lag and just adjustment period overall.
And not having a coach to integrate.
Yeah, swapping marksman too.
It's been tough, but Draiku has definitely figured out looking a lot better now in playoffs than they did during the regular season, as has the team as a whole. And so far, with the knowledge coming through, the classic counterpick towards the Thresh. Now, the Gragas creates a lot of opportunities for TSM because you have a lot of disruption, a lot of frontline to play with. Now you just need to fill out the kind of damage profile that you want to be bringing in. Also, ways to try and deal with the upfront burst that the mid lane Annie is going to be providing.
I was about to say, I like TSM taking away some of those mid-jungle 2v2s that like to pair up with Annie. As I think, for me, Annie taken because you want to win that mid-jungle 2v2, transition that lead elsewhere. So 100 Thieves showing a comp that honestly plays a little bit faster so far with the Annie going mid. And I got to say, that's a little bit of a switch up for 100 Thieves, who we've seen play a lot of Zeri Lulu, a lot of mages mid for Pretty, really waiting to play, two lanes, get to the later stages of the game where your two carries are really strong. It is a little bit of a switch for 100 Thieves, especially given that we expect Darshan to still be on the tanks.
Yeah. I mean, the tanks and the Gnar, right? Like, both these guys are some of the most classic Gnar players you have ever seen.
Maokai ban.
Maokai is definitely very interesting. A little bit surprising. It has definitely fallen in priority quite a bit, but it also leads to a situation where 100 Thieves, you can see that they're taking a long time trying to decide what it is that they are going to be taking away. Where do they think this is going to go? Do they want to be giving over a Lee Sin? Because they won't be able to pick it for themselves, especially because you don't want to play it into the Gragas.
Yeah. TSM could double up on that, and we've seen Svenskerin's Lee Sin in his career trajectory been one of the strongest internationally. Of course, as when we caught a chance to talk to Svenskeren in the interview that you did with him, one of the things that he talked about was, hey, listen, it sounds, silly that like our goal is LCS and we're playing here in Challengers, but like there's no other way to get onto an LCS team, especially with how long of a break that we've taken. We have to play and we have to prove ourselves once again. So, I respected that candidacy from Svenskeren back then, and as they are starting to find their footing in the playoff section, TSM, maybe this is where they start surging.
Yeah, Yukino is going to be answering with the Jarvan, almost definitely. It is technically still playable for the top lane, but not something that we have known Darshan to play in the past.
I actually really like the Jarvan. Specifically, it's good interaction with Xayah because you cannot use your ult to get out of Cataclysm. Yeah. You have to burn Flash, but also, if we go way back, it's actually an old counter into Gragas. You can still use the Cataclysm to get out of the cask, and some of the abilities that Gragas has that do take really high priority on that CC chain. Of course, that body slam being deadly. You called out the Gnar. It's going to be blinded here for Darshan, and I would love to see Haunter slam something real aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, even the Gragas already is such a good matchup into the Gnar, just because you just out-sustain him, you prevent him from doing anything. But Haunter, definitely a bit more of a carry profile, definitely wants to be a little bit more aggressive than the Gragas will actually let them be, and that's why we're seeing all these different options come through. The Cassante looking to be the final answer here, and honestly, considering everything else that they were hovering, the one I might be least excited about.
Yeah.
It's a lot of displacement for TSM.
It's a lot of displacement, yeah.
But I think it just goes to show what TSM's overall team composition focus is. Rather than being lane dominant and trying to give Haunter the tools to success and Snowball, they are really trying to shut down this backline of Unforgiven and Pretty. And, Aurelia, you can hit a stun, and a lot of the other things can hit stuns, but this is all about, hey, we need to create as much pressure onto the backline as possible.
I mean, Aurelia does that too. I mean, you get a free lane up into the Gnar, but regardless, they do pick the Cassante here. It does have some fun interactions with the Cataclysm as well in order to get people outside of that. A lot more displacement there. So TSM, their big thing, they want to get into a brawl and they want to stay in there. And you know what's going to be really good at dealing with those big brawlers? Tibbers. Tibbers is going to be insane. It actually asked the question if Pretty wants to go for some kind of burn build, which is something we don't see a lot from Annie's, but is actually insane at dealing with all these big melee bruisers.
All right, guys. Have fun in game one.
Bye.
Bye, Cubby. What if we just walk over to his room and cast from there?
I think Jay would hate us for that.
Production would be like, what are you doing?
Why are you there?
Why are you there?
And the stream wouldn't even be able to tell.
True. Yeah, because we would be silent. They cut all audio. Oh, is this a flash burn from Pretty? He's holding it, though. And it's actually a cleanse burn from Neo and a flash from Draiku. 100 Thieves Challengers.
Don't even think about it.
They're still fighting. Yukino taking below 50% HP. Looking for the third Natofo strike. It's a flash burn from Yukino. All right, finally. Summoners burned from the side of 100 Thieves Challengers, but level 1 brawling.
Yeah, just out of nowhere, total shenaniganeries coming through. And ultimately, not a whole lot of advantages going over towards TSM. Yes, Yukino's early ganking is going to be a little bit less impressive. It's going to be a little bit easier for Svenskeren to go for some of these fights, but it is definitely going to be a tough position for TSM, especially now that Neo doesn't have that cleanse. It's not going to be way easier for Destiny to try and aggress, especially if they get some of those early level 2s.
Yeah. I don't know how fast Aphelios gets his purple gun, but anytime he's rotating that one into his pool, that is an easy setup for Gravitum Gun root into Death Sentence. And I don't even think you can flash out of that because you'll be rooted.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very easy thing, but you don't get Gravitum for a while. You do have to go through red and green first, and then... Oh, man. I used to know the order that they started in and how you're supposed to get them into correct order. I'm sure Dimitri will yell at me and or tweet at me when I ask about it later. But for now, it is going to be 100 Thieves starting everything off with just some very standard pathing coming through as Yukino starts moving down towards the bottom side. And I always find Jarvan a very interesting character. Yes, it's got a couple favorable interactions with characters like Xayah, but it's also a character that if you start falling behind this character, you really wish you were playing something else.
Yeah, and with the way that TSM are going to be playing, a lot of it is forward on the engage. It's hard for Xayah to follow up. Draku getting burned down by an early ignite from Destiny, just looking for lane pressure and dominance as the wave is in their control.
Yeah, total control, and Neo and Draku are going to have to play a little bit further back, but the wave is going to be in a bit of a tough position for Yukino to actually come in for a potential dive, especially with Svenskeren waiting in the wings. Not going to be an easy spot for 100 Thieves to make that happen. But so far, I mean, while Unforgiven and Destiny are a good lane, like they're a pretty decent laning duo, they really make their money in the team fights later on, whereas Neo really likes having situations where they can get through some of these early laning phases and wait for his opportunities to be a bit more aggressive during team fights. But great ward from Yukino, also spotting out Svenskeren.
So Svenskeren is going to be waiting for an opportunity that Pretty should never be able to give him just because of the vision advantage that they have. And Yukino, if he and Pretty sync up, maybe they can just turn the tables on to Svenskeren. Svenskeren might have to know. He thinks that he has to jump on him, but it's the flag and drag over the wall, and Svenskeren realizes that it was all an elaborate ruse. Yukino throwing out the emote saying, "You well right into my trap."
Aha! That's my trap card. That's something I hadn't really thought about, Mark. We got double Oceanic supports coming through. Destiny and Draku. I actually don't know if they ever played against each other.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the history between them. Maybe we can send Cubby on an expedition on GOL.gg.
Yeah. Doxa, haha! Got the little bit of extra comment. You fell into my trap card. It wasn't a very good trap card, but it was a trap nonetheless. And now, it is still an interesting thing, right? Because Pretty is also one of these players that is an interesting case, because they are a dual citizen of Greece and I think it was Australia, definitely somewhere in OS.
Yep.
And so they're another Oceanic player that has been coming through. We've got a lot of them that have been playing so far in our Challengers and Academy system historically. But Pretty's also been a player that's been fascinating to watch. I've had a lot of conversations with one of his former coaches, Jensen Go, and he's like, I feel like we will never get to see Pretty's best champion, which is Twisted Fate.
Yep. I mean, Pretty is so damn good at being able to be a facilitator for the team. I know that when one of my initial conversations when Jensen was still coaching the team back in, I think, Immortals 2021, is that Pretty was one of his favorite players to work with, just because he's willing to give so much of his resources, so much of his agency, just to make things happen on the rest of the map, which is why, even though we don't get to see Twisted Fate, Talia is such a great champion. Annie is such a great champion for him, because it's all about getting out of that lane and trying to make plays happen. Yeah.
We also are getting word that Destiny and Draku have never played each other before they started playing in the Challengers League, and ultimately not having an opportunity to go for any of these big historical things that they have had opportunities to play against each other in the past, but it is still a spot where we will see how these bottom lanes will be coming out ahead. I am going to be very excited, again, to watch how Unforgiven is going to be piloting this Aphelios. It is a character that has a lot of different ways to outplay a lot of people, and, to borrow some of Kelsey Moser's terminology, it likes to Kaisa all over people. You just use your Gale Force, throw out your ultimate, and just burst somebody 100-0. Which is definitely something that Neo was going to have to be very careful about, right? Because if you don't dodge the ultimate, you're just going to get bopped.
Destiny makes his mark here just because he knows Pretty is too low on HP to push out the wave by himself, but they're forced to come back because Dracu and Svenskeren are also here, but the play was made way too fast by TSM. Svenskeren and Dracu were not in range, and that's an easy first blood for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, calling into int, right? That was not the play coming out from Doxa. Easy collapse coming out from 100 Thieves. And it is worth noting that Doxa is a player who is not playing from close to the servers. They are playing from Vancouver, Canada, where, you know, they do have, I think probably about like 70 ping would be my guess. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to play a lot of these more mechanical champions, but it is definitely a worrying first blood coming through for 100 Thieves, who do not need to be given advantages.
100 Thieves, we know that this is one of the few teams where I think there's a stat by beatdown where if 100 Thieves have the gold lead at 15 minutes in the game, they win plus 90% of those games.
Speaking of.
Oh, but the interactions between Dredgeline and Death Sentence, it still keeps Dracu within lethal range. The heal from Unforgiven gives him the movement speed to get the last auto attack in. Dracu goes down, and it's another kill for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, good stuff coming out for 100 Thieves. We were just saying we do not need any freebies. They go down bot lane, they get Dracu, and with the long follow from Destiny, even just like walking up into the bush, already showcasing a ton of confidence in his bottom side of the map. Checking in on our two more veteran players up on the top side, Darshan and Hanser. Darshan, this is probably his most played career, and probably also Hanser's on the Gnar. And it is a relatively new matchup, and uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Well, Darshan does have Hop, but Svenskeren has Dragon's Rage as well. I think Darshan is getting baited here. He doesn't realize how many other friends that are on TSM side, but great flash gets out from the Resonating Strike. And now the Dragon's Rage from Svenskeren gets a kick flash, sends the insect in, but 100 Thieves are just fine because they have the massive numbers advantage.
Yeah, Hanser never really rotated. He was trying to get this wave in, make sure that Darshan was going to be punished for leaving the lane, but TSM a little bit peckish, a little bit skittish around that play, ends up giving over a freebie again to 100 Thieves, and that's going to be 100 Thieves starting up the Rift Herald. What was 100% of the time at 15 that they have a gold lead?
Anytime they have a gold lead at 15, they win like 90% of the games.
All right, well, we'll see. They are already off to a fairly large lead, as now 100 Thieves getting contested.
Hanser now here to see if he can find something. Dracu is over the wall. He's channeling Hex Flash, but Yukino just flag and drags out. Destiny is forced to flash here. Svenskeren looking for a Sonic Wave onto Pretty, and Pretty gets that alive. Can't say the same about Destiny. TSM are able to get their first kill of the game and force 100 Thieves from stopping or to not take the Rift Herald.
Yeah. Well, the Rift Herald will be staying alive for a little while longer, but the waves have not been going in favor of TSM, as Darshan was able to catch the entire wave, and now Dox is going to do his best to get all of these, and Darshan knows that Hanser has no flash available, and Darshan, he's got the movement speed to kite this guy out.
Or does he? I mean, he's going to go all out on Darshan. Darshan's about to go Mega. Can he get the slam into the wall? Looks for the wall up into the Mega Gnar. And I guess Hanser just thought that he was going to be able to outplay him, but Darshan's like, listen, buddy, just because I took a month off of League of Legends doesn't mean I still got it in me.
Yeah, I don't know what TSM's doing right now, to be real.
All right, well, Svenskeren should be able to clean it up.
That's what,
Hop.
yeah.
All right.
And saving the wave. Yeah, Svenskeren going to be putting that in a perfect spot where it should be able to freeze, I believe. But, I mean, that's the second time we've seen something really questionable coming up from the TSM solo laners. That is not going to be something that can continue if TSM want to be able to take down this series. That was a fairly straightforward moment. I feel like Hanser was waiting for the animation for the Gnar ultimate set of the wall. Does get hit by the first stun and can't unstoppable the second part of it, and so just gets outbursted by the Gnar, and Darshan getting that extra kill. Another dragon going over towards 100 Thieves. Find themselves in a very comfortable position at this point, and Pretty, I mean, we were just saying the Annie was really struggling in our first series of the day, but now that Pretty already has 2 kills, is going for that burn build, is going to be having this Rylai's, the Leandries, and people are just going to be sitting on top of that. If TSM don't instantly kill Unforgiven, they are going to get burned to death by a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
Like you and Cubby.
Yep. I mean, it's not the same type of burn.
Or bear.
Yeah, or bear. Please. Move us on to the next topic. I can't save it.
Don't DM him. Don't DM him. TSM. It is definitely going to be a bit of a tough spot,
Yes,
right? Pretty
yes.
is going to be having so much more freedom to move around
Astute
the map.
observation, Josh.
That's not going to get us past the topic. But with all the extra tools that TSM are going to be having to worry about, I'm a little bit surprised that Haunter doesn't actually just yeet Darshan over the wall there. That definitely feels like an automatic way to try and find some of these fights, but look at this. Pretty's got health right around the corner.
X-Flash from Destiny, lining up the hook, but can't get in range. But there's still a Rift Herald to play for, and that is 100 Thieves' main calling card on the wall, where Svenskeren and Draku are setting up for this dive on the top side of the map. Minion Wave is about to pour in.
Here comes the cavalry.
I mean, TSM, you got to make this dive happen fast. Darshan hops over the Minion Wave, is now going to link up and hold hands with the rest of 100 Thieves. Sonic Wave, you're not going to take that one because you know that you would be going right into the waiting arms of 100 Thieves. Doxa might look for the body slam. Dragon Flag gets him out, but Darshan only takes a little bit of damage. He's about to go mega soon. Doxa gets taken out. This seems like a losing fight for TSM. Svenskeren is forced to retreat. Draku forced to flash, and TSM are sent floundering.
Yeah, I mean, great escape coming out from Darshan, trying to find the last bit of damage onto Svenskeren.
Doesn't have flash quite yet, but he's about to go mega. Haunter outs him under the tower, and I think Haunter does manage to trade out one, and he can always retreat back into the tower. So at least some credit over to the top laner TSM, but the Rift Herald, the main prize of this side of the map, still goes in the hands of 100.
Yeah, very odd fights coming out from this game so far, Mark. It just feels as though TSM are really unsure as to what it is that they want to be doing with these fights. They are really taking a lot of time to figure out if they want to engage or not, whereas 100 Thieves a little bit more coordinated. And again, props to Darshan for actually finding their way out of that last fight, making sure that they were not going to get dove underneath their own turret, using the hop to get away from Haunter. And I feel like Haunter just like didn't realize that was a possibility. I was like, oh, I guess he can go that way.
I got him corner, guys. Oh, wait,
yeah.
he's not.
I also think Destiny here might have potentially missed the Hex Flash over the wall, but either way, as Doxa comes in, great cancel from Yukino, and afterwards, I mean, this bear takes so much damage. Svenskeren uses both the smite and both parts of his Q in order to take down the bear, and that means that that damage is not going on to a 100 Thieves champion.
Looks like we had some scuffles in the mid lane. The Rift Herald does manage to get a charge. Pretty was not able to get in range of the charge, so it's all plate golds over to Yukino, but they still have control of the map, and they're getting ready as the second dragon up in a minute and a half.
Yeah, and to their credit, 100 Thieves have done a fantastic job starting to look for these early neutral objectives. They got the Rift Herald finally, and now they are going to be setting up, getting a ton of vision control around this upcoming dragon. At the same time, Neo Unforgiven kind of left to their own devices for a little while. This Aphelios with the Bloodthirster hasn't been able to be taken advantage of by Neo, but I agree. I think that said Manco, like a TF2 reference.
I'm not sure.
See, I told you he was going to tweet at me.
Well, I mean, he tweeted at you, but I felt like I was the one that introduced the question. I wasn't sure what the rotation was.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether it was blue or purple third. Because you'd always see them at like the same time.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
But either way, as we continue to watch it going forward, remember you can use the hashtag NACL on Twitter to harass us, or we harass you. And Darshan and Haunter going for the full fight. Just kidding.
He's gonna get angry, Josh.
He's angry.
Roar!
I still like Nar when he's angry.
I mean, I think that's the most fun too. You get to have the big plays. You slam someone against the wall. I think that's the maximum excitement too.
True. No comment. 100 Thieves, though, they are already setting up for this next dragon as TSM a little bit later to the rotation, but they did manage to take back a little bit more vision, but not enough as it gets cleared out. They only have one ward on the opponent's side of the map, which could be used by Haunter, and as soon as I said that, check and see this teleport is down. So another neutral objective going to be going over right on to 100 Thieves, and hey, Mark, they have a gold lead at 15 minutes. That's pretty tough. Remember, Unforgiven is, you know, he's a decent laner, but he's a crazy team fighter. Already has the first item completed and has not been tested so far this game.
Yeah, and it's not like it's a crazy gold lead, but the stat remains true for 100 Thieves over the entire regular season. If they have a gold lead at 15 minutes, it's been a 90 win rate. I don't know the exact number, but it's like in the 90s somewhere. As 100 Thieves now find Svenskeren, but they're going to knock him up with a flag and drag. Cataclysm.
Oh, the bear.
And the bear burns them all down, baby. Doxa doesn't have flash, so he can't work his way out as another flag and drag from Yukino sends the Fat Man back into the fountain. Neo is now forced to use the Blast Cone. Gets to hold on to his summoner spells and make sure that he can have them for the next fight, but 100 Thieves just rolling the game in their favor.
Yeah, and honestly, doesn't really feel like they're getting tested. TSM giving over a couple of freebies is now hurting for it. Darshan going to be turning the top lane around after they have the Trinity Force completed. And the only thing left for 100 Thieves to do, really, is start taking down some of these structures. There are 3,500 gold in the lead already. Just off of all this fighting, they haven't even taken a single turret yet. They've already gotten 2 dragons. The Rift Herald is going to be spawning relatively soon. 100 Thieves taking off all the boxes so far.
And you know a team is ahead when the team that is snowballing is contesting you on even the buffs. That is when they feel confident, like, hey, we can force an objective. It doesn't matter which angle we go.
Yeah, we're just going to take any fight. It's fine. All fights are winning.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is the big thing, right? As Destiny does manage to flash out, Neo just doesn't have the damage left to get anything here. And Svenskeren, we praised them quite a bit for some of their movements on the map, but some of the mechanics are still trying to catch up in that regard. You saw Yukino just outplayed him in that fight, getting the knock-up, getting the blue buff, getting everything he could out of Svenskeren. And Doxa on this Gragas, there was a quote, I think it was from Cubby, that you can tell which players have been playing since Season 3 because they're all good Gragas players. Doxa's one of our newer players. Haven't yet seen anything come out from Doxa that has given us a whole lot of excitement about this pick's ability to be flex, especially when we know that Svenskeren is one of the best Gragases in the entire region.
That's right. TSM finding themselves on the back foot very early on into the game. What looks like a small 4,000 gold lead is something that 100 Thieves can just snowball even further and further. We knew what the strength was at 1,000. Now it's 4,000. I mean, 100 Thieves, they haven't still taken down any turrets yet, but the pressure that they have allows them to walk freely into the jungle quadrant.
And look at the same time, right? Annie's not the most exciting of side laners, but going into the Grog is like, yeah, that's good enough. You don't really need to be a great one to try and deal with Doxa on the side lane. And here we go, Svenskeren goes in.
I mean, but Yukino should always be able to flag and drag back to the Dark Passage, right? More Drinker keeps him alive.
The wards!
Oh, but the ward stops him from being able to take it, but the hooks from Destiny gives Yukino time, and Svenskeren almost goes down. The flash forward from Unforgiven forces the Feather Storm from Neo, but it's another hook onto Draku. He's flashing away as well, but can't get to turret range quite yet. Pretty follows up with the damage, and just like that, all the fighting was going on, Josh. The minion wave itself was pushing in and takes the first tower for 100 Thieves at the same time.
And at the end of it, 100 Thieves get the real treasure, the red buff they found along the way. 100 Thieves winning every single point across the map. And we got to see that even in these kind of crazy situations, 100 Thieves have some of the best hands of any team. They will just constantly fight their way out in ways just like the 100 Thieves Academy squad would do. They would just find themselves in awkward situations and get themselves into winning ones. And now Yukino, I mean, he jungle privileges his way back to full HP, picks up the Rift Herald as well. That's a 4th neutral objective going over in favor of 100 Thieves.
I mean, this might be really early to call the game, but it just, based on precedence of what we've seen from the regular season from 100 Thieves, this is textbook from them.
True.
They're contesting them on every single buff camp at this point. I imagine that anytime we're going to get to the game where if wolves are up, Yukino's like, hey, wolves are up, those are mine. Raptor camps, those are mine. Krugs, those are mine. And they have the stats. They're wall dipping them at this point. And TSM, I don't know what the comeback mechanic is unless you are able to just catch 100 Thieves slipping and making an error.
Yeah, Neo goes nuts. That's basically it, right? Like 100 Thieves, you know, you'll know this one from Zane. Maybe they forget.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe 100 Thieves forget to cross the T's and dot their I's. But outside of that, it doesn't feel like TSM really have some great tools. I love the fact that Pretty is going for this burn build on the Annie. Will be crushing through the health bars of all of these tanky melee frontliners that TSM have been playing. And as another dragon is actually spawning, 100 Thieves have TSM on the far side of the map, and 100 Thieves will be grabbing themselves a 5th neutral objective in a row.
Well, as we called it out, every single camp that Yukino sees, he is laying waste to it. Yeah.
He's Seagull. Point,
Point.
point,
Point.
point.
just like the Dragon too. Third Dragon of the game. 100 Thieves Challengers now at Soul Point here. I want to start getting ahead of the conversation and just look into the next game because I think it's fair to do so.
Yeah, this game is already starting to look a little bit tough. Now, TSM did lose Game 1 to CLG. Right, it was a spot where TSM were in a bit of a rough position. They'd have to revert. I always feel weird calling like best of 3 reverse sweeps, right? Because it doesn't feel like a long enough situation. But regardless of my own semantic issues,
maybe we can call it a bounce back. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll talk to that. We'll let Twitch chat.
We'll have to workshop it.
Yeah, but regardless. TSM were a team that had to scrap their way back in games 2 and 3, and I feel like looking at this kind of situation, you need to give Draku and Neo something that is unequivocally winning in the bottom lane in order to really have a chance of standing up to Unforgiven and Destiny. Just because this bottom lane, even though they're not the craziest bottom lane, you need to be playing to an advantage. You can't be playing for a draw in the bottom lane because you're just going to get outperformed later on. Whereas in the mid lane, like, if you give Doxa something that he can be a bit more aggressive with, something like his Zoe, or even like an Akali or an Kassadin, where he can be more aggressive and have more tools, like, things like this don't happen.
Yeah, Baron cleanly taken. Oh my goodness, the dunk from Yukino sends Neo back to the fountain. Pretty is just having a great time. 3 people right on top of Draku, the bear as well. This is tough for TSM, but it is understandable, and now even the game recognizes, TSM, you are in dire straits. The pity prizes are online. 100 Thieves now 1 Dragon away, and with the Baron buff, I mean, they might not even get to the game where they compete for Soul Point, depending on how many structures they take down.
Yeah, we'll see whether or not TSM can survive. The one bright spot they do have is Hanser is still beating Darshan over in the side lane, but, I mean, they've gotten 2 turrets off of it. They got the outer bot and the outer top. But 100 Thieves are now knocking on the door of the TSM base. And Svenskeren can't do anything on this by his own. I actually think Unforgiven duels him.
I mean, he kicks him away and he prevents the... Doxa has this massive flank. Body slam flash. Can they...
They got him!
They got Unforgiven, okay! That's one error that maybe you can capitalize on as TSM. Just being able to catch Unforgiven out while he was not expecting that flank. Darshan,
there's the bear.
Scoop into the wall, and now the bear. But now you've got Unforgiven, but Pretty's bear is still doing all the damage that 100 Thieves needed. TSM were willing to go all in on that pick for Unforgiven. But what do they lose, Josh? They lose almost everyone for it.
What did it cost? Everything. They lose the inhibitor. They lose 4 members. They get Unforgiven, but Pretty... I was waiting. It's like, where's the bear? There's the bear. Oh, it did 2/3 of Neo's health all by itself. 100 Thieves rocking through this game. And as you said, Mark, we are already looking at what to do in this second one. Gotta give Doxa something that he can actually try and contest Pretty on. Take away this Anya. 10-stack Magi already has the Horizon focus as well.
That's a fed bear.
That's a fed bear.
That is a bear that is stocked up on Taco Bell and Chipotle, too. I mean, like, the next time we see that fight, it is Cubby's room all over again. For TSM, Yukino.
Is the Cataclysm Cubby's room? Is that what we're going to start calling it from now on? Yeah, he's just catching straight. He's like only... He's not even on this cast.
Yeah, he can't defend him. Don't worry, he's gonna give us flack when we get back onto our Rally Cry halftime show.
Yeah, it'll be what it is. It be what it do. And now we do see 100 Thieves. They're gonna be taking away another turret for themselves. They have a Infernal Soul to fall back on whenever they feel like it. And 100 Thieves. Oh, Darshan?
Okay, they flash right into Darshan, but Darshan not necessarily the squishes. Remember that you can jump
Mr.
on
President!
The wombo combo from 100 Thieves incinerates TSM in the blink of an eye. Doxa's the last man standing, but he ain't standing for much longer. He's gonna just retreat to the safety of his turret. Okay, well, Yukino will
got him
down. All right, shut down for Doxa. All right, throw the emotes. It was all worth. Hashtag worth in the chat. Yukino does give up his KDA as a result, but you know what? It's okay. 100 Thieves are going to clean out game 1 and take us into game 2.
Great stuff, honestly, from 100 Thieves. I mean, pretty completely perfect game. 9-0-10. Never really was tested. Unforgiven, the only time he goes down was a big fight where They get everything in return, and now Pretty just waiting. He wants to get a couple more kills here.
Darshan!
Mr. President!
Mr. President!
Still alive. Good stuff from 100 Thieves. I was expecting this to be a very 100 Thieves favored matchup, but I wasn't expecting it to be this favorite.
Yeah.
Honestly, the way that TSM tried to take some of those fights just didn't feel like the same TSM that played against CLG.
Yeah, maybe the Cope angle is
Game 2, baby.
Game 2 buff for both
Game 2 SM.
Yeah, the same thing with Dignitas, right?
Game 3 SM.
Game 3 SM. I mean, they need to get Game 2 SM online first in order to get the Game 3 SM. But of course, we're going to be taking that break. When we come back, it is rally time, halftime show with Cubby on desk.